Welcome back to Final Fantasy Ultra Champion Edition. We are back in the Earth Cave. If you did not see Part 1, please go check out Part 1 of the Earth Cave. This is Part 2 of the Earth Cave. We completed the first 3 floors of the Earth Cave, and we used the warp tile, the very handy-dandy warp tile, to exit on out, to replenish and save up, which is a nice little touch, maybe a reference back to the old days of having to fight the vampire and then traipse your way on back out, although as I understand it, there are a few warp out tiles in some of the dungeons in this game because the dungeons have been balanced to not be able to be completed in one crawl like they sort of were in the vanilla version. You would argue that dungeons like the Gurgu Volcano was probably not meant to be thoroughly crawled in one push, because it's such a long... The volcano is a long dungeon. And then the Sea Shrine does have a two-parter to it also. But those are longer dungeons than the Sky Palace, which is a little shorter. Between the Mirage Tower and Sky Palace, there's really not a whole lot going on in there. But anyway, here in the Earth Cave, we did warp out, and we're starting on the 3rd floor. Sorry, the 4th floor, so this is B4. The werewolves, I have since discovered, are susceptible to the holy spell, so the equivalent of what used to be harm now will do damage to the werewolves, which I think is a nice narrative touch, that because the werewolves are both supernatural and evil, that a spell that harms unholy or undead kinds of things would go ahead and crush them. You can see my spell list is still a little bit slight, and my equipment is it's kind of piecemeal because I'm waiting to upgrade things. With the new gold curve of this game, you have to really make a lot of choices in terms of when you pick up new spells and equipment, because gold is just at so much more of a premium. So you're kind of having to choose which spells you think might be most useful to you right now, and then kind of backfill your spell list as you go on. I'm finding that's what I've done at almost every step. I've bought maybe one level 2 spell, used it for a few battles, made some progress, and then come back and then backfilled out my level 2, and my level 3 still needs to be backfilled. You can see there with T-Hawk. Still needs to have level 3 spells filled in, or level 2 and 3 spells filled in. So I did find the treasure room there. I escaped from the golem fight, and the golem fight is kind of it's a spiked square, so kind of a mini boss or mini protector. Reading some of the things from the README and listening to some of the comments from the author of this patch's Let's Play series, which, by the way, you can find that playlist in the description to this and every video of this series. And it's a much more detailed Let's Play, so if you're looking to learn the ins and outs or the bones of this game, it would be best to watch that series, or watch the part of that series that you're most interested in if you want to watch a specific dungeon area. Go ahead and find that in his series. He talked about reducing the number of escapable battles, or inescapable battles, I'm sorry, so that the rogue could be a lot more valuable character to bring along, the equivalent of the thief from Final Fantasy I, whose specialty was supposed to be running away from battles, but Final Fantasy I had lots of sometimes baffling, inescapable battles that you just couldn't get away from just because. A lot of them were spike squares, so they're meant to be guardians or protectors of something, so that made a sense thematically. But a lot of them were just kind of random, or they were random battles that, because they appeared as a quote-unquote boss in another place in the game, were always unrunnable. One notable example would be the wizards, or the Pisco demons, who show up as a boss in the Marsh Cave, quote-unquote boss, not a sprite-initiated boss, but a spiked tile in front of the crown. But then you run into them later on, actually here in the Earth Cave, on level 3, I think, and I'm not sure about level 4, but definitely level 3 you can run into groups of wizards. And they're a little bit easier, but there's still nothing to laugh at. And by the time you get down to level 4, you're trying to conserve your resources. So getting into a resource-intensive battle like that is tricky. Now, a little bit of outside video baseball. to the south of my position right here, there is another treasure room that I did not find in this one, but I did go back down into the dungeon and grab it. Because there is a notable piece of treasure in there, the bind ring. And it is one of the very few casting items in this game. I understand that the author of this patch removed many of the casting items and has a set of rings that can cast spells for free. The bind spell is a lower level, actually I can't remember if it's white or black. I did not pick it up because its effect is to lower the evasion rate of the enemies. Now that's useful in a lot of circumstances. There are a lot of random battles with enemies that are annoyingly difficult to hit with physical attacks. So if you have a physical party, a bind ring will be very, very useful to just cast that baby once or twice. It's an all-targeting spell. You can have that set. I'm not sure how much I will use it. Likely T-Hawk will spend probably the first battle of a number of random or the first round of most random battles casting it to make it easier for my physical characters to land hits on enemies, especially multiple hits for my Viking. So here anyway, I'm healing up for the battle with Lich, and I'm checking the status of everybody's spell list so you can kind of see what we have going in. I did pick up a Fire 2 spell between this and the last video. So that's going to be my main offensive attack. It is Lich, the Fiend of Earth. So the Fiend's Ball cracks, and out comes our friend Lich. So there's Holy 2 for my Paladin. T-Hawk, unfortunately, does not have very much to do here because I did not pick up the Shell spell. The Shell spell protects against fire, ice, and lightning. It kind of acts as A Fur, A Lit, and A Ice all in one. It protects against all of those. I did not pick that up. And Lich, if Lich goes by the rules that Lich goes by in the vanilla version, Lich will cast ice, likely cast ice on his first attack, and sure enough, there he did. Now, it is possible for him to use physical attack because he could, I believe he can check for that spell and end up making a physical attack instead of casting a spell, but likely his first move is going to be Ice 2. I think it's Ice 2 in the vanilla version, but of course Ice here acts like a second level spell, and then it's all targeting in this hack. So I've got an Invis spell and a Shield spell. They're not going to be all that useful because Lich doesn't, at least in my experience, use many physical attacks. So there's a heal spell to kind of counteract the ice. And there's Fast and Temper now both apply to my Viking, so he'll have 4 hits with an increased attack. And so now I can go on the full-out offensive with my Sage now that the Viking is doing good damage. Here's Fire 2. Lich should be weak to Fire 2, or at least not resist it. So there's Holy 2 also is kind of the best source of damage. And you can see T-Hawk there doing 91 with the hammer because Lich is an undead that is susceptible to the hammer-type weapons. So the more humanoid kind of undead take a lot more damage from hammer weapons in this one, like a D&D situation. There's Fire 2, 413, one-shotted. Poor Esper there in the front row, so Esper's not going to survive this one. But the more ghostly type undead, they do not seem to get that bonus, which makes sense. That more ghostly type undead don't take critical damage from hammers, but it looks like the author of this patch decided to make Lich a more corporeal or a more human-like undead, more physical type of undead. So actually, Esper could have been doing good damage with the hammer. I didn't think to attack with a hammer. Nice chunk of golden experience, and Esper will even get that experience. Esper will get that experience being dead. That's something that a lot of hacks have improved on. So now we're going to see our Viking sprite leading the party with a dead party member to get us out. Here I'm just going to take a look at our crystal. We've got 4 orbs are unlit. And here we go. And actually, this emulator captures that effect, that FCEUX. Normally, on my other machines, has a hard time capturing that particular effect of the white wave of energy coming up from the crystal altar. So that's it for the Earth Cave. Keep in mind that there was that extra treasure room that was picked up off stream or off camera, so we won't actually see that, but you'll see me using that as we go on to Crescent Lake, etc. in the next series. If you like this video or this series, Be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you have any thoughts about this one. Do check out the series of Let's Plays done by the author of this patch for a much more technical ins and outs description of this game. And we will see you next time.